Hi, and welcome back to another video on waveform. This is waveform 11, and I'm going to show you how to create a tempo map from freely recorded multi-track drums. And the tempo is about 95 beats per minute, and I've already set that up in the project. I also just dragged over all of these files. Now, one thing to look at is on each of these clips is to make sure that auto tempo is turned off. Otherwise, as you make changes to the tempo, it'll try to stretch. And we don't want that. What we want is to change the actual timeline up here to conform to match this. Now, if I turn on the click track here and play back a little bit, you'll see that it's off from the click, or it drifts off from the click. And it's pretty close. I mean, it's not horrible, but you could see it's starting to drift. I'm going to turn snap off because I don't need it for most of this tutorial here. But you can see by here, this is the downbeat kick on 1. Bomb. It's getting more late through that section, and it's late here, and it's even more late by here. And then it catches up a little bit. So the tempo is free because it's freely played. It's not bad. It's actually good. It's good in the sense that it's got a great feel. Now we're going to use a feature called the Groove Doctor. And that's accessed by clicking on this stethoscope icon down here in the lower bar. There are hotkeys for that. If you'd like to use a hotkey, you can assign those to a keyboard shortcut. And this gives us a variety to do a lot of things. And in this section here, we'll be able to extract a tempo map. Now, before we do that, we need to set the range over which we want to do this operation. So I'm going to make sure I've got one of my clips selected. I press A, which sets the in and out marker over, as you can see here, over the entire range of the song. This is a little work apparently I was doing beforehand using this, but we'll clear that out here in a minute. So I'll do capture selection, and now this white box is set over that range. And what we're essentially going to do is mark the downbeat of each bar of music here. And to do that, we go back to the analyze phase. So you click here, and we set the tracks to analyze. Now, here's something we didn't do, is we want to set this to be something that's got a consistent beat and that's going to clearly define the first beat of each measure. And between a kick track and a snare track, we can get that done. But I want to set the kick and the snare into a group. So I'm going to select the header for the kick track and then do a shift selection to select the snare top. This will give me that, and then I'm going to create a group. So we'll do add new group, and we'll give this group a name and just call it kick and snare. And that's really all we need to do with that. So we have a group to work with. So then on tracks to analyze from group, kick and snare, and then we just click analyze. And it will analyze it over pretty much the entire song. Now we do get a lot of these markers. These are the bar markers that we're going to use to identify beat 1 of each bar. We can manipulate these by holding on the shift key, and then if you see it as you approach one, as you see that minus, you can click and remove them. Like that. And in the transient detection, it detects all kinds of transients that we don't even need. Now you could reduce the sensitivity, but we still wind up with too many of them. So I find for this particular process, it's better just to click this and throw these transients out, and we're just going to draw them in by hand where we need them. So this is our very first downbeat. If I hold down Shift, click, I get one of these bar markers, and then I bring it right up to the onset of the transient. And I can zoom in and out. I'm using my scroll wheel to do that. There's also some convenient fast scroll buttons right here on the Groove Doctor that you can use to do the same thing. And then I'll play a little bit and find the next downbeat. Right, so here's the next one. And we hold down Shift and click, and then just drag this right in. Now you can hold down Shift and click to create one and then drag, but I find that it's actually easier just to kind of keep dragging. So I've already held Shift, and now I just drag. I never let up the mouse button as I mark each of these bars. And we'll do a few more of these. And if you want to do it more accurately, then you can zoom in more, like at this level. And then I'll just quickly play. And then I can stop near that bar marker. And here's the next one coming up. Between playing and dragging those in, then you can gradually get these all set. You can see this is bar 8, so it's already close, so it's probably going to be pretty good as we get started on the song. Now, before I progress through the whole song, I can hit apply at any point here to see how I'm doing. So I hit apply. It says it's going to override existing tempos, which is fine because we're identifying all the tempos using these markers. It'll put in tempo changes on the tempo envelope here in the tempo track at every one of these bar markers. And they'll have very slightly changed values as we go through the entire song. We can hit apply repeatedly through this process, and it will not have any negative effects on this process. So let's just test what we've just done to see if it lines up with the click. I've got the metronome on. All right, so that's right on the money. So I'm going to continue with this process, and then I'll be back in a minute. All right, so I'm partly through the song, and I wanted to point out that if you forget how to manipulate these transient markers or these bar markers, it tells you right down here at the bottom of the Groove Doctor, if you look at the note there, it says drag transients to move them, hold Shift and click to add or remove them, which is exactly how it works. All right, so I've been identifying all these bar markers, and most of the time the kick defines the beat 1 of each measure. But in this particular case, in this fill, I'm getting the situation again where the snare I have to use to do this alignment. So it sounds like this. So right there, 1 is right on that snare. All right, so the ending is a kind of a drum fill, and at this point I am going to allow it to just do what it wants to do from here. So I've put in all the bar markers. At this point I'm going to click apply, and now it's created the tempo map for the entire tune. And you can see that there's tempo changes. One thing is just to take a look at them, see if they look pretty uniform, and then play back and see if the click lines up with it to see if we've done a good job. Just do all that before closing the Groove Doctor. All right, so it sounds nice and tight against the click. Now, if we bring in additional elements, loops and things into this, we can make them conform to time stretching to stay in time with the tempo map. So I'll do a quick demonstration of that. I'm going to close the Groove Doctor, and you can see that all of our bar markers and things change. Go into the Files menu, and I've got some just random loops. I'm just going to audition this and see if there's something I want to try to put against this rock beat. All right, so we're going to try this. I'm going to bring this into a new track. Let's put it up here at the top so we can see if it lines up. I'll zoom in on this. I want to make sure that it's aligned to an even bar number and that its time stretching is set correctly. So we'll go back to Actions. It is set to Elastic Pro and Auto Tempo. I'm going to drag this one over with snapping. Use Q to turn snap back on and put it right here. I could either loop it or I could just hit D to duplicate it a few times. And of course, we're going across a variety of tempo changes, so it's being stretched slightly to match. Let's just see how that sounds. Before I start playback, I'll just turn it down a little bit. Another thing to try with an audio loop is to actually loop it. So we click the L button, and now we have two sections of it, and from here we could just loop out or drag out copies of it. And even these should be in sync with that. Right, so even with that variable tempo, the copies are falling on the right downbeats. You could see right here we've got each of these all the way through to the end is still in alignment with the bar markers. So that's how you create a tempo map to freely played music using the Groove Doctor in Waveform 11. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in another video very soon.